Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, friends, foes, and perhaps some of you who just simply said, "What in the world is this all about?" That's right. The title of this program certainly has your attention. And by the way, that means you have just gotten one of your first lessons in marketing in the modern world. And of course, one of the real lessons in radio. And here it is. The people you are trying to reach are doing something else. Stop them. That's right. Uh, yeah, they aren't just sitting there waiting for the radio to come on and you to be there. They're doing something else. And of course, that's more and more true all the time. And then get their attention. Get them to say, "What? I have your attention." Now, let me first of all give you, don't worry. I understand. This is an experiment. Now, all of my programs are experiments. I never know quite where they're going to go. I don't work from a script. I work from just my heart, mind, and spirit and the thoughts that I have. And then I go. We'll see where it ends up. Sometimes I literally don't know, but after 45 years of doing this, I usually know how to bring it to a close and make it work within the time span that I have. Okay? So that's part of the experiment. And also part of the experiment is just for us to take what is a controversial title and see if we can just simply get people to think. Not challenge them, not make them mad or angry, but just think about this. So we are doing two programs. First of all, this is interesting ideas. No, it's more than that. It may be inconvenient ideas. And how to be a world-class Jesus entrepreneur or the Jesus entrepreneur experience. That's what the program is all about. So let's start it right now. I remember the story that was told to me by a friend who was a pastor, and he gave this story in such a way that it really struck with me. And as a longtime missionary and broadcaster, and I always like a good story. And the pastor was sharing with me the fact that he had just come back from the hospital in the last few days from somebody who was going to die, but they didn't. They were able to pull through and make it. And one of the things that happened, he went to the person, comforted him with how great, wonderful, and he said, the man then kind of grabbed my arm and said, "Pastor, remember, tell them Jesus is real. Jesus is real." And I've been working on the Jesus entrepreneur experience in its origins for about 25, 30 years. Within the last 5 years, trying to see if we can make it work. And now we're trying to make it work. It's ready to go. We hope it will go well. But that got me. Make Jesus real. Now, when you think about it, no matter who you are, whether you are a follower or a believer or anything like that, or just, you know, as I say, most people don't know what they think about him. But he is real. Now, the problem is, if he is real, but he was real 2,000 years ago. In a far, far away land, long time ago, the old Star Trek thing, Star Wars thing. Long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, Jesus was long, long time ago in a place far, far away. In Israel, in Palestine, if you want to use that term, in the land of Judah, if you want to use that term. You can choose your terms about the part of the world that he was in. And it was an ethnic heritage and a religious heritage place. The ancient history and the ancient world and the ancient belief of the Jewish faith. And so that was part of where he was at. And he was also in a place where there was political oppression. Yeah, he was also in the Roman Empire. But he was not a citizen of Rome. Because he was not a citizen of Rome, he was a second, probably third, or a fourth class person. Also, as far as we know, he was not formally educated in the sense that, that he went to a particular school or college or seminary. Doesn't seem that that was what happened. What we do think we know is that he was born. His family had to run and become a refugee. That's right, Jesus was a refugee. They went to Egypt because the bad guy, Herod, was going to try and kill all the babies. And he thought if he'd heard that this guy was a king to be, well, he was going to make sure that he killed any kings to be. Came back, and it seems that he took up his father's occupation, which was common throughout the world. If you were fortunate enough to have a father, is that he was a carpenter. Now, it's very interesting that many times we think of that in a variety of ways. Maybe he was a talented maker of furniture, he was creating fine, beautiful furniture. Or maybe he was just building things, a house, a barn, a building. Maybe he was just kind of a handyman or a fix-up man. Some people think that he was probably also, and some of the word that's used is he was a stonemason, but that was a pretty honorable profession because that was where you could really, the rich people would have statues and other things made rather than the simple old housings that most people had. And so it could be that he was working with a really high-end clientele. We don't know. I do know that he was good at what he did. That's right, because that's the way he was. He was smart and bright, the oldest son, and he did it well. We know that. And of course, the story is that perhaps from the age of 12 to the age of 30, that's what he was doing most of the time. So he was a small businessman for about 18 years. And then, in the miracle of what we would call incarnation, the man came to announce that he was the Son of God. He didn't dwell on that a lot. He oftentimes said he was the Son of Man. He made a point that he was not the Father, but he was somebody who took orders. uh, he got an order from the Father. And so that's what we have. Now, what I try and do is to say, what would Jesus do if he were you? Well, now that makes it easier rather than what would Jesus do? If you're a plumber, what would Jesus do if he were a plumber? Now, that might help you figure out how to live, how to believe, how to act. What would Jesus do if he were you? Now, what would Jesus do? Here we go. If he were here today, right now, he was in Israel right now. Rather than 2,000 years ago, he's here. Same guy. Everything else is the same except it's 2,000 years later. And the Messiah has come. Now, if you are a young man in Israel right now, guess what happens? Uh, the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, is coming for you. In fact, military service is required of every young man or young woman in Israel. Now, there are obviously physical and some other exceptions, some religious exceptions, what they're trying to do away with for some of the real super conservative Jews. But, you know, you got to put in your 2 years. And there are still people who say that that's one of the reasons that Israel is so powerful, is they have a lot of people who've had military training, even though they may go back and become businessmen and teachers and all those things. They are still in the reserves, and when there is a tragedy or a problem like the event of last couple of October, that the reserves are called in, and they are oftentimes the ones who are making battle, particularly in the latest conflict in Gaza against the Hamas terrorists. Here's what I'm simply asking. What do you think Jesus would be if he really were in the IDF? Now, that's going to cause you to think about, well, what would that mean for him? And now, what would that mean for you or for me? And I don't want to get in and make any predictions or comments. In fact, I'm very honest about it. That rather graphic that caught your attention was not designed by me. It was designed by my robot, who I have trained to be very, very good. And it was interesting that the advice I got from my robot was, don't provoke, don't rant, don't take a position, just let people think about it, to dwell about it. Don't have him shooting a gun, don't have him in battle, just the man there, calm, hopefully poised and brave, but obviously a man of war. What kind of man do you think he would be? And what will that mean to you? What kind of man would Jesus be if he were here today, like you and me, and he had to serve, or was drafted to serve, or was coerced to serve, or was told he better serve in the Israeli Defense Force? What do you think would happen? What kind of man would he be? And what might that tell you and me? I would love to hear your answer, because it won't just tell me what you think of Jesus. It will actually tell me a lot about who you are. And remember, when you are in business, the best thing you need to know is not your product, not your service, or how to sell. The best thing you need to know is the people you are trying to reach. What are they like? It's been said, and I believe it, everybody wants the good stuff in life. Isn't that true? The problem is that the good stuff is oftentimes very different. And say, oftentimes, it's always very different. And so your job as a communicator, whether you are a teacher, a voter, or a leader, whatever you are, you have to become quite good in understanding people, understanding the human condition, understanding fear, anxiety, all the things of the human experience. You have to get pretty good at understanding. And then once you begin to understand people, then you have to understand what's going on. That's where I say the prayer that I oftentimes give is Issachar, 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 based on the Hebrew scriptures where it says the men and women of Issachar understood the times and knew what to do. And that's something that we as Jesus entrepreneurs need to know and do, because that's what he knew and knew what to do. And in our life and business, it'll be very good if we would learn to be and do the same. Hey, that ended up pretty good. Not too long, thoughtful. I'd love to hear from you. What is clear to you now about Jesus, Jesus the entrepreneur, which some people still have a little problem with that. I remember one pastor said to me, I don't know if I like this Jesus entrepreneur thing. I say, why? He said, well, it's hard for me to think of him as a businessman. I said, no, yeah, that's very true. And entrepreneur, think of greedy and they'll do anything to make money. I said, well, maybe you have the wrong conception of what a businessman is, or maybe you have the wrong idea of what an entrepreneur is. Maybe all you can think about is, what does it mean to be a pastor? Maybe you should think a little bit differently. And he smiled. That's what he should do. It just kind of made him think a little. I hope this will make you think a little bit. I'd love to hear from you. Reach out to me at stan@witradio.net, stan@witradio.net. What I'm teaching in the world-class Jesus entrepreneur is, if you are a follower of Jesus and you are in business, we can bring the two together, Jesus, business, and you and your customer, and help you to be really good at being an entrepreneur. That's our job. That's what we do. We do it well, and we'd like to do it for you and your group and your gang and your good friends, and perhaps your church or place of worship. How to be a Jesus entrepreneur, to have a Jesus entrepreneur experience. And the issue of bringing up life and business in just a way that the world understands, we can do that too. We have about 40 some years of experience doing that. And if you'd like to know how to do what I'm doing, which is to have my own radio station, my own radio program, my own video station, I am doing what you have to do. You're going to have to learn how to use radio and television and media and broadcasting if you want to make it in the 21st century. People are not reading newspapers and books. They're watching and listening to the media. That's where they get their messages. That's where they get their information. That's where they get their entertainment. And if you're in that part of the world called where they actually have that stuff and not stuck up somewhere in North Greenland where there's nobody, we'll be, talking about Greenland right now, you'll have to be involved in working and living in the mass marketing media. Hey, the clock on the wall says time to put an end to it. Just about 20 minutes, a little bit longer this time, but no more than 20 minutes, length of a TED Talk, and we're done. Always close with a benediction. That's what I say. Speak well. I wish you all the best. These are hard times. These are difficult times. These are challenging times for everybody. And I want the best for you, to help you figure out what is best for you, and then perhaps maybe to help you get what is best for you. All the best and blessings. Take care. Pray for the children of the world. Pray for world peace. Pray for the leaders of our countries, and hopefully, maybe 26 just might be one of the best years ever. Wouldn't that